have a small anecdote I wanted to share about Sheikh Yusuf Qardawi that demonstrates what real scholarship does despite the disagreements. No doubt, being who he was and being such a iconic mover and shaker, you cannot accomplish this global movement without getting criticism and without having people disagree with you. And he wrote his most famous book, Al-Halal wal-Haram fi Islam, which is an amazing book, and Allah has blessed it with an amazing acceptance. No other book of modern fiqh has been given more acceptance than this book, and this is well known, and I have explained why in my lecture. This book was published back in the 60s, 70s. It began spreading across the world. Eventually it made its way to the land of Arabia, where the fatwas of the local ulama were sometimes different than this book. And the great scholar of Arabia at the time, the Mufti, Sheikh Abdul Bin Baz, who is his own great alim, mujtahid, a great person of knowledge, we respect and admire him, he read the book. He had the book read to him. And he wrote a letter to Sheikh Qardawi, which is preserved. And this is back in the early 80s. And he said, Allah has blessed you with this book. This book is doing an amazing job. However, I have 8 points of disagreement. And because of these points of disagreement, I want you to think about this. I don't want this book to be spread in my country right now because these are 8 issues that I strongly disagree. And he listed them one after the other. And he said to the Sheikh, please look into them, and if you can change your mind, I'd appreciate it. Sheikh Qardawi wrote back a very beautiful letter. Again, all of this is preserved. And he said, my dear esteemed Mufti, Sheikh Abdul Bin Baz, if people would change their fiqh opinions for other people, I would be the first to change my opinions out of my respect to you. I respect you so much that if people changed opinions out of respect, I will be the first to change my opinions because of my respect for you. But people of knowledge don't change opinions based upon other people. This is what their ijtihad has reached them to. And Sheikh Qardawi said, it is the sunnah of Allah that within the scholarly community you will find differences of opinion. From the time of the Sahaba there were differences, so we're not going to solve these differences simply by eliminating them. These are the positions I have come to. If I am right, I hope Allah will reward me double. If I'm wrong, I still expect Allah to reward me once for a sincere attempt. And Jazakumullahu khairan. Sheikh Ibn Baz was so impressed with this letter and the adab of this letter. He had never met Sheikh Qardawi. He wrote him an invitation, you are invited to Hajj, to come and meet me, a royal Hajj. You were invited to come and Hajj. And the two of them then interacted together and they established a friendship together. And Sheikh Qardawi says, I was shocked that even though the Sheikh said, I don't like these 8 opinions, when I visited the kingdom, lo and behold, my book was allowed to be sold because the Mufti then allowed the book, even though he didn't agree with those opinions. This is what real ilm does. It teaches you tolerance. I don't have to agree. I don't have to necessarily see eye to eye, but this is a great alim. He has an opinion. Live and let live. And I say to all of us here, do not take other religious Muslims as your enemies. Do not take folks that are lowering their head to Allah, praying 5 times a day, having a slightly different belief, slightly different fiqh than you. Don't take them as enemies. Even from the time of the Sahaba, there was some diversity. So keep that spirit alive. You choose the ulama you most like. You choose the scholars you are resonating with most, the ones whom you think know the most and fear Allah the most, and then follow them. Your brother, your spouse, your cousin, your best friend chooses another group of scholars, as long as they're within the mainstream. And again, what is the mainstream? I have given a whole bunch of khutbahs last 2 months about this. As long as they're within the mainstream of the ummah, live and let live. Do not allow animosity to be so much that you cannot tolerate a difference of opinion. Learn from the spirit of Sheikh Qardawi and Sheikh Bin Baz. Despite the fact that they did not see eye to eye on so many issues, they remained utmost firmly brothers in Islam. And when Sheikh Bin Baz passed away, I was actually in Saudi at the time, Sheikh Qardawi flew in immediately on the same day, and he was in the first line to pray janazah over Sheikh Bin Baz, Allah yarhamu. This is what real scholarship does. The love of Islam is broader than one firqa, one maslak, one madhab. The love of Allah Allah and His Messenger transcends so many different movements. So learn from those who want to unify the ummah, bring the ummah together, and avoid those who are sectarian and preaching narrow-mindedness. What we have in common with so many other mainstream groups is far more than what those differences are. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all the scholars to unite the ummah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep our hearts alive with love of Allah and love of the Messenger. Allahumma inni da'in fa'amminu. Allahumma la ta'ala fi hadhi yawmi dhanban illa ghafarta, wa la hamman illa farajta, wa la daynan illa qadayta, wa la maridan illa shafayta, wa la asiran illa yassarta. Allahumma اغفر لنا ولإخواننا الذين سبقونا بالإيمان ولا تجعل في قلوبنا غلا للذين آمنوا ربنا إنك رؤوف رحيم. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين. اللهم من أرادنا أو أراد الإسلام والمسلمين بالسوء فأشغله بنفسه واجعل تدميره في تدبيره يا قوي يا عزيز. عباد الله، إن الله تعالى أمركم بأمر بدأ به بنفسه وثنى بملائكة قدسه وثلث بكم أيها المؤمنون من جنه وإنسه، فقال عز من قائل عليما: إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك وأنعم على عبدك ورسولك محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. عباد الله، إن الله تعالى يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. اذكروا الله العظيم يذكركم واشكروا يزد لكم ولذكر الله تعالى أكبر. وأقم الصلاة.
فيا ذلي ويا خجلي إذا ما قال لي ربي: أما استحييته تعصيني ولا تخشى من العتب وتخفي الذنب عن خلقي وتأبى في الهوى قربي، فتب مما جنيت عسى تعود إلى رضا الرب، تعود إلى رضا الرب.